Last time.
Those who succeed in losing fat and keeping it off don't get there by sheer willpower alone. Instead, they learn how to hack their willpower in order to make their strategies work for them.
In order to increase willpower, first we need to understand two universal truths for all muscles. Number one, muscles get stronger when trained over time. Number two, muscles can be overworked.
And now?
So how do you get started with training your willpower muscle? The same way you train your muscles for a sport or activity, with repetition and progressive overload. Welcome to the Hack Your Willpower series.
If you want to know when the next episode drops, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell icon. Hi Viva fam, this is Richa from CoachViva.com. Let's go.
When doing a push-up, each push-up is a rep of the exercise. To get to 10 push-ups, you have to progressively overload your muscle with training more and more push-ups over a long time until you're able to do 10. So to train your willpower, you have to understand the basic rep of a willpower muscle. A willpower muscle gets a chance to flex anytime it's presented with an environmental cue. This can be the presence of a donut at work, for example. Then the willpower muscle gets to work in the form of making a gut decision about what to do. For example, eat the donut or do something else. This is when you're doing that push-up. This is where most people think they can just try hard enough to produce that willpower. But 99% of the time, you don't have the time and energy to think logically through your choices. This flex of your willpower muscle is driven by emotional thinking rather than logical thinking. That you do the action, which is the outcome of what your willpower-led decisions produced. Either you ate that donut or you didn't. Finally, your body goes through a post-processing reflection moment, which can be conscious but is actually mostly unconscious. Think of it as your muscles breaking down and rewiring themselves after you perform the push-up. During post-processing, our brains process everything that happened to decide what we should do next. Did the action we take feel good physically or emotionally in the short term? What's our self-talk at this point? It consolidates all of this information without our awareness and communicates what to do next to our emotional centers, so that the next time the cue shows up, we will repeat the action. If you chose to eat that donut, your brain will say this to your willpower. Yes, that felt good in the short term. Let's make it easier for you to do this the next time too. If you chose to go for a short walk instead of eating that donut, and then you enjoyed the walk, your brain will also say this. Yes, that felt good in the short term. Let's make it easier for you to do that next time too. But if you chose to go for a short walk and then you didn't enjoy it, your brain will say this. That didn't feel good in the short term. Let's not do that the next time. This sounds a lot like a habit loop, doesn't it? In the habit loop, something in the environment triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward, which satisfies the craving and ultimately becomes associated with the trigger again. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, introduces the following rules of thumb for how to strengthen the desired behavior. Number 1, make the trigger obvious. Number 2, make the craving attractive. Number 3, make the response easy. And number 4, make the reward satisfying. The corollaries to these are the rules of thumb for how to weaken an undesired behavior. Number 1, make the trigger invisible. Number 2, make the craving unattractive. Number 3, make the response difficult. And number 4, make the reward unsatisfying. We'll cover how to do all of these throughout the course. Today, we'll focus on number 1, making triggers for desired behaviors obvious and for undesired behaviors invisible.
Making a better decision is easy when the cues for good habits are readily available to you and the cues for bad habits are hidden and difficult to encounter. Forcing willpower is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. You may be able to resist that temptation once or twice, but your energy would be better spent optimizing your environment. And this is the secret to willpower. Now, you may be asking right now, wait, hold on. How can I strengthen my willpower muscles if I just try to make everything easier for myself? Shouldn't I be challenging myself? 3 things. First, remember our push-up analogy? If you can't even resist the temptations that you are already facing with today, that means you're trying to attempt 10 push-ups when you really should be attempting 1. By optimizing your environment, you're scaling back the intensity of the exercise so that you can actually improve. Remember, you can only do a certain amount of reps right now. Your environment is throwing all these reps at you, but you can only handle so much. Start with where you are now, not a month, not a year from now. 2, Even individuals with tremendous self-control don't actually inherently have more or less willpower than the rest of us. When researchers surveyed people who have more self-control versus those who have less self-control, what they found is that the people with more self-control are actually just much better at structuring their lives in such a way that it doesn't require them to flex their willpower muscles as much. In other words, they simply spend less time in tempting situations. And number 3, you're likely straining your willpower muscles much more often than you think. Your willpower muscle gets used anytime you try to resist temptation, not just around food, not just around exercise. So whenever you're holding back from lashing out at a difficult coworker or a difficult family member, or you resist making that impulse decision on that new bag you saw, that's taxing your willpower muscles too. And most of these are outside of our awareness. That is, most people don't even know the sources of environmental triggers around their lives. So unless you make the unconscious conscious, it'll always be directing your life and you will always feel like you are out of control.
To get started on noticing your triggers, here are the top 5 common kinds of triggers. Trigger number 1, time. Do you tend to do a series of activities when you first wake up in the morning that's preventing you from working out? Do you have a tendency to grab an afternoon snack at a certain point in the day? What about after you get home from work? Trigger number 2, location. Do you tend to eat something whenever you walk into the kitchen, regardless of whether or not you're hungry? What about when you visit your family? At an airport? Do you find yourself craving different foods at home versus at work versus in the restaurant? Trigger number 3, events. Do you want to snack right after you finish a difficult task at work? Do you have a tendency to miss your workout if your phone lights up with notifications beforehand? Does brushing your teeth make you feel less like snacking at night? Trigger number 4, emotional state. Do you tend to eat more when you're feeling lonely, bored, or stressed? What about when you're feeling excited? Do you notice when you're craving something if you're breathing more quickly or feeling a tightness in your stomach? Sometimes it's easier to use physical sensations to determine if you're feeling a particular emotional state than trying to identify the emotion itself. Trigger number 5, people. Do you tend to eat differently when you're around your friends versus your family versus your coworkers versus by yourself? Now, identifying and modifying your environment is half the battle already, but you can't remove every trigger from your life. And when it comes time to make the gut decision, no amount of trying hard enough is going to help. Because remember, that's the point where our emotional brains take over. So in the next video, we'll discuss ways to make your desired action easy and satisfying to do so that you'll be more compelled to repeat it again and again until it becomes a habit. And if you like this video and you want to really take your willpower mastery to the next level, we're opening up an enrollment for our free Willpower Mastery email course in the next week that you can sign up using the link in the description below. Again, it's completely free because so many people misunderstand willpower and end up shooting themselves in the foot. We don't want that to be you. To get the course, sign up in the link in the description below. Hey there, if you want to know when the next episode drops, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell icon. Until then, keep crushing it.